special treat for you. This is an interview I did quite a while ago with Niel Guilarte. He is the editor of, he's a lot of things, that's why I had to think. He's the editor of a movie coming out on podcasting called The Messengers, and he's an incredible cameraman and director. He has a podcast called All Things Post, and he has started coaching new podcasters as well. He is a really interesting and wonderful, lovely guy. And as I talked to him at the MapCon conference that I went to in early September, as I was listening to him, I started thinking, this guy is an interesting kind of storyteller and one that we haven't talked about much on Craftlit, because he does documentary films and nonfiction. And I thought, it might be kind of fun to get a chance to talk to him and see how he thinks as he's putting together a story. So we wound up talking about a lot more than just that, but we sure had a good time talking to each other. I hope you enjoy listening to our conversation. And if you're interested in more stories and not a regular Craftlit listener, please come join us at craftlit.com. Episode 402 is the beginning of the Count of Monte Cristo. And at craftlit.com/library, we have, I think, 26 complete novels that are waiting for you. Thanks so much. Have fun listening. Why did you have to go off into the wilds of Haiti?
When we were shooting our podcast film in Guatemala, I was flying my drone, and she knew she was going to go to Haiti for a mission, and she saw video of me flying it. So she asked me, could I do that in Haiti? And I said, yeah, sure, for the right amount of money. And so then she told me the cause, and of course that changed the amount of money. And I was like, wow, now I feel bad. Now I just want to do it to help people. And then as we go to leave there, she said, don't bring the drone. It's too dangerous. They'll shoot you for it. So can you go get a GoPro or something? So I went and bought a brand new GoPro and that wireless. And so we were there. She's going to reopen a clinic that's in a extremely remote part of Haiti where right now there's like some kind of strike. There's no medical. So women are having babies and they're riding a motorcycle 3 hours to get to a clinic, and they're dying before they get there.
Wow.
So they created an orphanage for the kids that are born on the road when the mom didn't make it. That's how sad it is. So she's reopening. She's going to spend the money to partner with this mayor of this very, very tiny town. And she's going to reopen the clinic to do at least basic care and then some emergency pregnancy things.
Holy cow. You are such a good man to be.
What was funny is when we were there,
stuff?
everybody ran up to us for help because her husband's an eye doctor and she's a medical doctor, and they thought we were doctors. So there was a line. The clinic is completely closed and there's weeds up to the top. And when they saw us in there recording and making notes, and she said in Creole, I'm going to open this clinic, there was a line, I think I'm joking, of naked children about halfway down the street wanting immediate care. Like one little girl had a cyst in her eyeball real bad. Oh. And the moms were like pushing the kids to the front so that they could just check them even without equipment, just check them now. And it was very depressing, very sad. And so between Guatemala and that, I think I don't take anything for granted anymore. That's for sure.
Well, that does kind of have that effect on you. So
no, my day, how's yours?
I know. I was going to say, wow, my whole drama is just not drama. So when you started recording her in Costa Rica or in Guatemala for The Messengers?
She saw me in Guatemala, and so she said, "Oh, this guy flies drones around other countries. I wonder if he can do it in mine."
Wow.
Yeah.
You were supposed to be there in Guatemala for her to see.
My wife's she's a pastoral family, my wife, and she says, babe, maybe you chose to tell the people's story because every job you're getting is taking you to the poorest of places, and for you to tell the story because you're a filmmaker. And what's funny is I left home to be a filmmaker, but my business has become commercial video, obviously. And so The Messengers has like completely reopened up the documentary and the movie world. And we're flooded with people wanting us to do stuff. And it's, I went from having no choices to, I got to pick which ones we're going to do. It's amazing. It's
wow. And it's all from the podcast movie, from The Messengers?
Most of it's from there. Obviously the high visibility that we got from that. And the other part of it is, as I post a lot to Facebook while I'm doing what I do. Mm-hmm. And I think people see me in doing it and then they go, oh my God, can you do it here? Or I don't do it on purpose to get work. I just want people to see the journey.
Yeah.
So I don't have a boring Facebook page. And it's been leading to other people seeing us in other places. And then they're like, oh my God, you need to come to where we are, or would you come to where we are? And then it becomes a job, and so.
That is so cool. And actually that's one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on the podcast is that
Yeah, I'm excited. I love being on a podcast.
I know. Well, and you're a very good interview. I could tell from listening to the what was it, the fitness one.
Oh yeah, that was an accident. That
was so
I thought
funny.
you were going to ask me about the movie, and we talked about weight loss.
I know. I was going to say, just because there's a lot of women who listen to the podcast and men, but there's a majority women. I'm sure they would love to hear how you lost 100 pounds. The one thing you did, because my jaw went. I had another friend who did this, another guy friend of mine who did it. Same thing.
Oh, it's been a rough
But I'm not going
ride.
to say it. You are going to have to, because they'll
Oh
trust
yeah,
you.
I'm open to everything. I figured once you got me on here, you better ask away because I don't really hold back too much. I'm a big believer because I'm a podcaster first, and then other things have come from podcasting. But I always believe in the whole honesty of podcasting, and I think if there's one person, like I told him on that show, look, man, I want to talk about the movie, but if one guy out there is struggling with his weight and this helps him, then amen. And sure enough, somebody wrote, oh my God, this was inspirational. I'm going through the same thing, and the honesty helped me. And I was like, see?
Yep. I know. I know, because we all get those letters, right?
Yeah, I've only gotten like a few life-changing ones, but they've been big. Like some kid in Singapore was like, there's no schools here for film, TV. So the gems that you guys talk about and you drop on your show so openly, literally, if it wasn't for your show, like you're giving me ability to make a living here.
Wow.
So they're like, I don't have any way to learn, period. But I hear this podcast, and then he's like, three of us listen to it through a little radio, and we take so many notes. So now I make it a point to say hi to them in Singapore, and I say, hey, here's a cool website, check it out. And they're like, oh my God, this is great. So,
That's so cool.
It blows my mind. Like I said, that's why the movie, directing the movie was such an honor. And then we just had a recent big time drama. We lost our editor in politics. And so I was originally going to do it, but since I didn't, I took on Haiti. Well, now I'm inheriting the movie again. So now I have less time than the editor had to cut the film.
Which oh my God.
We can talk about that drama because it's going to be on the Messengers podcast soon. And and then now I have to cut Haiti and that at the same time.
Wow.
So, yeah. So
okay.
Two films plus
so before we go on, you do have to say it on tape. Or on digital, I guess.
Are we still taping?
What tape? No, there's no tape.
Cool.
I know. I've got a reel-to-reel going.
Yeah, tell me when you're ready to start. I'll go to soundbite mode.
What was the one thing you did that helped you the most in losing 100 pounds over the last year?
Water. The one thing I did that lost the weight was drink water. I haven't even yet started truly working out.
That is so cool. And it took how long? A year, 6 months for you to see?
I lost about 40 pounds in like less than 6 months, just water weight.
Yeah.
Well, Coca-Cola weight, I call it. Like I flushed out the bad stuff. And I literally just started buying, I don't know if you've ever seen those Zephyr Hills gallons that you could like grip them, the gallon waters.
Yes.
And I literally drank one of those a day. Like I would buy 10 of them and one for each day. And I mean, obviously it makes you go to the bathroom a lot. So I flushed out. There is a danger, by the way, of too much water, but I drank water. And then once I started looking and feeling a little bit, more, I could fit in a booth and I could put my clothes back on. Then I started saying, now let me battle this one meal at a time. And every single meal was like a 30-minute decision of what will I eat. So 5 slices of pizza turned into 2 and some type of salad, and then I just added a little bit of broccoli to my chicken. I still ate Chinese. I still ate pizza. I still ate bad. I still had an occasional Sprite. I just got rid of the 30 Cokes a day, 5 slices of pizza, 2 boxes of Chinese, and I started just having a little box of Chinese with a soup. It's just, I don't believe in diets.
You get the flavor.
Stuff. Yeah, I don't believe in diets. I just selectively battled it one meal at a time. And then what happened was, as I started to feel better and look better and get compliments, and I never forget the day that the Publix weight machine could actually weigh me, because I was 367 at my worst.
Wow.
And it only goes to 300.
Wow.
And so the day that it registered 298, I damn near did a backflip because I could now be weighed at Publix. but it was a huge victory. It was like
Of course
I'm
it
under
is.
3. out of heart attack
Yeah.
zone, you know. And
Yeah.
then little stuff like looking at my wedding when I was that big and I didn't even realize it. And I'm like, God, my wife loved me at that size. Holy crap.
She's not going
And
anywhere.
so now I'm not perfect. I ate bad food in Haiti and I'm sure
Well, you were lucky to get food in Haiti.
yeah, but now, now it's a daily struggle, but all the traveling's keeping me light and I'm trying to get into the treadmill and the elliptical, but one meal at a time,
You're a
just one
braver
day at a
man.
time.
I think it is so I think it's so amazing and it actually does feed into the larger topic,
Hmm.
which is the as a documentary. Well, where did you go to film school, or where did you educate yourself?
I'm completely self-taught. Um,
Yay, me
when I was
too.
in, but when I was in high school, I mean, I did graduate, honors in the entertainment side of things, and I went to UCF for 1 year, University of Central Florida, on a full ride. I had a full ride and scholarship from National Arts and Honor Society, and so I went to film school. Supposedly, their film program at the time was this is way back in 1991. I'm very much dating myself. And
I'm
when I went
older.
to 1 year of that, and all I was doing was watching movies and studying it, I was like, okay, I could teach myself this. This is not the career that you need to have this degree. So I moved to LA, where I was originally had grown up in Southern California before we went to Florida, and I just started working. I just started learning the craft from the people that do the craft because I still believe in the old way of learning things. You could be a master swordsmith if you learn from a master swordsmith. It's that simple. And so then I came back to Florida because my family's here, and I started, working in television stations and working my way up and learning from every time they'd say, "Don't touch that," then I'd wait till the building would close, and then I'd go touch it. Neil, never edit on that machine. Okay, no problem, sir. And I'd finish my 10-hour shift, stay up all night reading the manuals, and I actually learned to edit without ever turning the computer on. I just read the book.
Was
And
this like on
so
an Avid, or what were you?
at the time, it was even older than that. It was pre-Avid, but it was some really high-end PAX TV. If you're listening, I'm sorry, but you gave me my career without meaning to. It was just some awesome editing computer that I was never allowed to touch. And
Right,
so what I did was I read the book, and then when I was finally able to touch it, I already kind of knew it.
right.
And then I did finally get work for the Orlando Police Department, and I got certified Avid way back in 2001 and was on Avid for less than a year. And I was actually shooting another film. And I'm telling you the long story. You can edit
It's
this.
cool. No, it's
And
cool.
a friend of mine calls me and says, "Oh my God, I'm shooting a music video in the middle of the rough part of town. My editor bailed on me. Can you please come and help me?" And he had this thing called Final Cut Pro by Apple. It was only Final Cut
Mm-hmm.
2 at the time.
Oh my
I
God.
never saw it in my life. I cut on it once and I never went back to Avid again. And I've been a Final Cut editor since that day.
Yeah,
Um, God, that was way back 2004.
yeah.
And now it's 2016. I'm still an Apple editor. I do use Adobe and stuff, but I think Apple provides you a low barrier of entry to make you extremely creative and you can compete without having to spend a lot of money.
Yeah.
And I'm still self-taught. I learn something new every single day. I train myself every single day. And I'm 25 years into doing what I'm doing. I love that I can teach and mentor other people. And it's not that I don't value education that's organized, but you don't have to have it.
I love the idea. I have always loved the idea of kind of apprenticeship programs.
Yeah.
You know that you get to learn from somebody who's gained some wisdom. And I think when I went to school, the best classes I had functioned that way.
Yeah.
Like I got a 2 credit. We had to do 2 credit classes at UCLA forever for every quarter, and it had to be something in the theater department that you were doing.
Hmm.
It was labor. You know, it was like cheap labor,
Yeah.
and I worked in the shop, and they didn't like having girls in the shop
Yeah.
because partly because a girl forgot to tie her hair up and got it caught in the drill press right before
Nice.
I got there. So I had to convince them that I was not going to be a problem. And I got to learn how to weld, and I got to learn how to use every machine in the shop. I learned that I really want more than anything in the world a cordless Makita drill because they're just awesome.
I mean, the thing about me is we were from Venezuela. My dad had 6 kids. We were poor. When we came to the United States, I was 2 years old. When we went to California, I was like 5 or 6. And I
And we
remember,
weren't very far from each other when you
yeah,
were a
like,
kid. Yeah.
yeah, like I was like 4. My dad took me to Man's Chinese Theater to see Star Wars when it opened.
Oh my
And
God.
so what happened was when I was 7, 8, 9, we would drive around Southern California and I'd see film crews and I didn't know what they were recording. I just see them on the side of the road and you're driving by and I'm glued to the window. Daddy, what are they doing? And making movies, but you'll never make money in that. You have to be an engineer. You have to be something else. You'll starve, son. You don't want to like that field, right?
Right.
And he just wanted his kids to do well. He just crossed an ocean to bring us here. And
arts are very risky. They feel very risky.
School doesn't teach you how to shoot in the heat.
No.
School doesn't teach you how to lay on the rocks in the floor in Haiti and still get a Dutch shot and make it look amazing, and doesn't teach you how to adjust on the fly when you've got things happening. It only teaches you technique. But when you're out in the field and your camera fails right before the mayor speaks or your wireless mic acts up right before something big happens, no school can prepare you for that. Only being in the fire and having had that happen to you before will prepare you for that. Like one thing I loved in Haiti that I literally wrote on Facebook was working for Mayor Dyer prepared me for this is I left the city after 13 years of serving the mayor. I loved working for the mayor, but I was exhausted from doing government work.
This is in Atlanta?
Yeah, in Orlando, right before I moved to Tampa. My last job before I became an entrepreneur was working for the mayor of Orlando. So when I got to the mayor of Haiti, he'd never been treated like a mayor that has a producer before. So I was like putting the mic, fixing his tie, making him look his best. And he was like, wow, I feel like a mayor. Because in Haiti, they don't treat me special. I'm just like everybody else.
Right.
And all my years of serving the mayor and knowing how to give him talking points and how to tell him who's about to walk up to him. And all of that stuff came to me, but I don't know French. I don't know Creole.
Right.
And so, but still what I caught myself doing was everything I used to do for Mayor Dyer in Orlando, I was doing for this mayor I'd never met in Haiti. And it made him feel so taken care of and so special that when he dropped his interview on me, it was the most amazing interview I've ever had. And so that wasn't school. That was 7 years of walking with the mayor in the hot sun in the middle of places. And, and I did homicide video before that for 5 years.
Oh my
So that
God.
prepared me to see dead bodies, dead animals, flies in people's kids in eyes. Cause I have seen dead bodies. I have gone on call all night. So life was my school. And, and that is the only real school to me. Everything else is just like, oh yeah, nowadays I could Google it in a book and read it.
Yeah. Well, and that's one of the things that I hear. My podcast listenership is, most podcasts have very solid demographics or psychographics. You have people who are interested in learning post-production, and so they listen to All Things Post. Right. Or they want to start a business, and so they listen to a business podcast. I have 3 distinct groups of people, and the most interesting one is a third of the listeners roughly never took an English class, didn't like books, didn't read books, but somewhere down the road, they're like, everybody keeps mentioning this Gatsby thing, or everybody keeps mentioning Jane Eyre. There are all these jokes, and I'm missing the jokes. And so they eventually stumble on Craftlit, where I've been a college professor, but I don't do the podcast like that because who wants, diegetic levels in Frankenstein?
Right.
No, you want to know that Victor is a jerk and the monster is really the good guy.
Well, the world has changed. And mind you, I come from a dad that reads like 9 books in a weekend, and he's 2 points short of being a genius. And I do value education, and my wife is big on education.
But there's self-education that matters so much.
I just told her for some people that need to be an engineer and need to be a lawyer, they need to learn all these technicalities, and doctors, they certified. Need a organized school. But film, as much as they try to make film programs, reality is there is an art to painting with light and painting with sound that cannot be taught. You either are born with a natural inclination to frame photos and position things and know how to use the sun. Mm-hmm. And then I learned it in film school, and I have hired so many people from Full Sail, and then at the end they'll just say, oh, I didn't get much time on the equipment because I was always learning the book.
We had that problem at UCLA. At UCLA, we had to do everything. We had to do lights, we had to do sound, we had to do tech, we had to do everything. At USC, who we hated a lot, they they got to determine their entry point as
Right.
freshmen. So you go in and say, I'm a filmmaker, or you go in and
Director.
say, I'm
Right.
a director or
Mhm.
an actress or whatever. And we learned relatively quickly. And what we found was that the people at UCLA who had to do everything were the ones who could problem solve.
Mhm.
So, you have a Fresnel that drops on somebody's head. Now you're going to have to make sure that they're okay and
Right.
do CPR or something. And then B, you're also going to have to figure out how to replace the light
And still get the shot, by the way.
and still get the shot. You still need to you have to get the stuff done. And so if your budget is this big all the time, you're
Yeah.
not going to be able to think creatively. But if your budget's like this and you want it to look like this,
Oh yeah. And
you
I'm
have
the
to think
first guy
on your
you'll
feet.
see on the plane after a long shoot that's reading production stuff and learning stuff. And I'm not saying by any means don't learn. It's just that
Oh no,
I think we're in a
education
world.
is
Yeah.
broad.
It's
There's lots
readily
of ways to
available.
get it. I
Yeah.
I
There's so many ways.
love the internet for that. In fact, my kid, I'll have to send you a link. My kid's been teaching himself Flash and animation.
Nice.
And he's decided this is now what he wants to do. I worked at Disney for 8 months on the movie Aladdin, which was great because it
One of my
convinced me
favorite
that
movies.
I needed to go to teach high school. Oh, the creative people on Aladdin, they were,
Oh yeah. You can see it in the movie.
yeah, you can,
To
because
date,
Ron
my
and
favorite
John,
Disney movie.
I don't blame you a bit. And I mean, I've seen it 100,000 times, and I still love the movie.
Yeah.
And I got to record with Robin. We had him for 3 days, and I was the one who got to read the script with him on the last
Wow.
read.
See, okay, now you get extra friend points. That is my favorite movie because I'm not it's funny, I tell people I should say my favorite movie, my favorite animated film.
Right.
But it's because of the way he does all his vocal inflections and being a person that's recorded VOs and I've worked in sound stages. I just imagine what he looked like recording that or singing, never had a friend, never. And all the way he changed his voice in the middle of things. And that's part of where people say, where did you become such a storyteller, is that was my school. Like I didn't
Mm-hmm.
get to go to voiceover school. I saw Robin Williams and I watched it over and over and
Mm-hmm.
over. And then when I started doing my podcast and I started doing my inflections and stuff, that's where that stuff comes from.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
Mel Blanc and all these amazing people that I just studied because I was a poor little kid, and I shouldn't say poor. I'm sorry, a kid that didn't have a lot of options up front because I just saw poor this weekend and I was not that. But I was a child that my parents did the best and didn't have a lot. So I learned from, I would listen, the way I produce music now in my studios, because I put my ear and used to listen to Phil Collins and master his drums. I didn't ever go to music school. Matter of fact, I met my wife because I asked her to teach me piano, and 3 dates in, I fell in love with the teacher, never learned piano. Um, but I've learned everything by ear. Yeah, I'm completely self-taught. Everything I do by ear. I DJ'd for years, self-taught. I did music, self-taught. I did videos, self-taught. Podcasting.
My brain always wants to learn more. And so once you
Oh
start
yeah.
down a road, it's like, oh, and there's more to learn. Oh, and there's more.
And I think you should always have an insatiable hunger for. Even in Haiti this weekend, I kept telling my other camera operator. He kept saying, "Oh, he always likes to joke and say, hey, Mr. 25 years, how you going to shoot this and how you going to shoot this?" And I found myself like with the GoPro trying to get shots I've never gotten in my life just because I want to stay with the young kids and I want them to still say, wow, this guy's been doing this for 20 years. He still gets amazing shots. I leaned out the side of a truck with thorn bushes going by me at 100 miles an hour and just to record a tire going through the mud at high speed because I was like,
You
I
got to
need
get
to
it.
continually raise my bar. And even at 43, I want to shoot things that my daughter will say, there's only one way my dad got that shot. He had to have leaned out of the side of that damn car. How else did he do it? There's no pole holding this camera.
Right.
And so, yeah, like you just said, it's that insatiable hunger and that will translate not only into your craft, it will translate into the way you learn in life, all things, how to
Yeah.
be a parent. I raised a daughter on my lap while I erected a business out of the ground. By the way,
Amazing.
no one taught me how to do the business, and no one taught me how to be a dad, and no one definitely didn't teach me how to do them at the same time.
No one would
So
teach you that.
I just think that, and even podcasting, I learned podcasting the hard way. I mean, that's why I
Mm-hmm.
kind of pinch myself when I'm coaching podcasters. Um, And I tell them right away, I never saw myself as a coach. I did it the hard way, and I'm going to teach you the simpler way.
But they're going to learn from your stories.
Yeah.
And that's the
Yeah.
beautiful part, that the wisdom, you
Yeah.
don't just come with the information, you come with the life wisdom. And
Yeah.
I don't think you can.
Well, I'm just trying real hard to help people because the more time we save from wasting mistake time can
Mm,
be a better podcast that's out that reaches more people for a longer period of
and helps
time.
more people. Yep.
And that's how I look at coaching is I'm not coaching to make money on the side. I'm coaching to get you there quicker so you can help two more kids in Haiti quicker. That's simple.
Yeah. No, that makes that
And you
makes
know
a
why
lot
that
of
matters?
sense.
I don't mean to interrupt it. This is why that matters to me. I had one of my listeners write and say, I was suicidal.
Oh,
I listened to your show.
yeah.
I then created a podcast because of it. And now a
Mm-hmm.
year or two later, I was one of his, on somebody who made him not make that move. So what if my show didn't exist that Friday?
Right. Right.
So
We would
that's
have
why I take
lost
it
him.
very serious when someone like, let's say you have a podcast about education and about a very specific type of education. What if that parent who is just entering that, how to deal with that with my child, heard your show on that Friday when they were ready to cash out?
Yeah. But okay, so as a self taught person, this is even more important to me then, because the thing that has always baffled me about the documentary side of things, like when you're dealing with something like the messengers or what you were doing in Haiti, where there's so much stuff,
Yeah.
what is the process that you employ? Because you have to get the story on tape,
Yeah.
but you also have to figure out what that story is going to be. And you put three people in the same situation, like at 9/11, you put all of us in the same
Yep.
situation, you
Three
get that
different
many
stories.
stories.
hmm
So how do you
Um,
choose which is the most compelling and how you're going to tell it?
wow. This is where there's going to be a set of listeners that's going to love my answer and a set of listeners that's going to go, this guy's a dumbass. You can believe that. So Um, okay, when I left home at 18, left to be a filmmaker, and life put me into video production, because it
Right.
made a living while
Yep.
I fought to be a filmmaker. And at some point, I got tired of trying to get into film and I moved so I ended up going into music and DJing. And every time someone told me I couldn't do something, then that's why I went and did. And then I did homicide video. Then I did government service video. And then finally, my wife says, I'm moving to Tampa. I got a great job at WellCare. And I looked at her and said, I'll only move if I can do my dream of having I'll have a media company, but that will fund my passion films, period.
That's awesome.
So when I started the business, and I of course went to the make money stuff, and I did my first documentary, which was actually called Beyond Boundaries. It was my friend named Raj Durbal. He's a triple amputee who climbed Mount Kilimanjaro.
Oh my God, I
And
watched the short on your website about that.
yeah, and that was
Wow.
a project that wasn't because I couldn't go because Natalia was being born. I hired a award-winning Mexican filmmaker who shot it for me on GoPro cameras as he climbed the mountain, and then I edited that movie. And it was my first time editing documentary. I didn't even know how to do it, and so I had to create a story that wasn't there.
Right.
And so that my first lesson with documentary was learning backwards. Was instead of having a great story to tell, I had to make up a story because the GoPros didn't record good sound. So I had to do all the Foley and all the sound effects of every footstep and everything you heard. So then the messengers was an opportunity that grew from Podfest. Chris and I just sitting around going, this could be a movie. And we started talking about it. I'll never forget the day we were sitting at a table deciding what our story would be and what our angle would be. And everybody was coming up with titles and all these things that they wanted to come. And everybody had an opinion.
Right.
And I looked at Chris and I'll never forget it. We were in a sea of people. And I said, why don't we just let the story tell itself? Why are we trying to determine what someone's podcast story is going to be? So then I interviewed Lee Silverstein, who has the
Uh-huh.
colon cancer podcast,
Uh-huh.
and with Chris, and he started telling us how when he got cancer, he just wished somebody would have had a message to share with him, and how he wished that he could just be a messenger, an angel for people that get colon cancer today. That within 4 episodes of listening to his show, you would know where to get help. That came up with the title, The Messengers.
Right.
So The Messengers has started to tell itself through every interview. Now, do we have a rough outline? Yes. As we watch the footage, do we go, oh, someone else said something like that, and we can weave this together? But to be very honest, every time I interview, I tell Chris, don't lead them in any direction. Just let them tell the story. That's very tough for an interviewer who's used to trying to get the missing pieces.
Right.
Now that we've got 90% of the movie done and everyone's amazing stories have, I don't even know what to pick. There's so much good. Now we're starting to finally lead just those last little pieces. So the big long answer was, I did it wrong. I did it medium wrong. And I did it what I think is right. As I'm in Haiti and I'm starting a new one, and I'm like, hey, Niel, get this right. It's like your third or fourth documentary. Like, start with a story. What are you gonna go tell in Haiti? I'm on the plane, I'm taking notes. I got there and shot none of what I wrote. Because when I got there, the mayor's interview told one way. The other doctor told another way. The naked children said another way. And guess what? It told itself. So in the art of documentary, I firmly believe you're there to translate and capture the story. It's not yours to tell. I really believe it's God putting you there, just like he would do back when they wrote the Bible. And it says, shut up, listen, I'm going to deliver some news and you need to make it on film. I really believe I'm there to capture whatever story he wants told. And then when I get home, I can add special effects, a little bit of music, and a little bit of Niel to wield it into a Niel Guilarte film for those of you that need marketing.
Right.
But I in my heart, when I was there and I'm shedding tears, I'm looking at little naked boys drinking out of a river where there's swine and that just peed in the river. I really believe that I'm there to translate what I see into a story for all of the people who drive Mercedes and never have a pothole in a 4-hour drive from Miami to Tampa.
Yeah.
So the answer is that I let it tell itself. And then I add what you and I educated people go, okay, for the people that don't know this, let me sort of weave and let me add a little bit of information.
Yeah.
You know, I'm pretty sure one day I'm going to sit down and shoot a documentary exactly as it was meant to be shot.
You think?
But, you know, I mean, I always felt that the point of documentary film was to tell someone's story or someone's, angle.
Right.
So then by default, you have to admit that when you're starting, it's not yours to begin with.
Right. Well, that's one of the things that I wondered, right? Because it's, to me, the few times that I've done interviews, do you just let the footage that you take filter through you over time? Are you making notes the whole time? Like, this bit was good, or this bit goes with that thing that we recorded last week? Or how do you, how many different ways have you found yourself?
Okay, I'm about to say now you went the right way, because I would love to say that there's a way, right? But I believe as the art of the guillotine. If you're the surgeon that determines, I believe that there's a time that sometimes you need to determine that there's nothing to be done. That some stories that have been told and they're just long, and that's why they're good. That's why that story works. Shorten it and you kill it. Lengthen it and you kill it. There are just some stories in the world that are meant to be what they are, and that's why I've always believed what defines a real, true editor is someone that knows when to never use the blade at all. The other option is, when I'm shooting, like in Haiti or even in Guatemala, there's a part of me that shoots to just shoot what's happening. And as an editor, I've shot 4 editors in the past. So as a shooter, and then I moved on to become an editor and then a director and I would tell you that a shooter and an editor would answer this differently, but I now shoot the story as it's unfolding. And then I try to shoot associated B-roll as an editor that I know I'm going to need to maybe tie that together or explain it or handhold or whatever.
Like the tire
going through the mud. I mean, I could have her talking and you see her head bouncing in the car, but I need to cut to something else. Trees going by, tires hitting the mud. How treacherous was this road? Without me saying a word, I just showed you that it's very treacherous.
Right.
Now, I want to have that option, but I may never use it. That's the art of editing. So I might be telling the story and realize I don't even need the tire, but I still need to shoot the tire. Because having shot the tire will make me shoot something else. So you may never get the shot that you're going to use because you didn't shoot the shot you didn't use.
Right.
Does that make any sense?
Yep.
So I would tell you that it's different now. So I'm a very good note taker, but lately, the past 2 films, it's on my head. And that's kind of a bad place to be. I would tell you with filmmakers, they say, put it on paper. It's a bad place. No one knows what's in your head. So how do we know how to record with you?
Right.
I would collaborate a lot with Willie Harper. We've been working for 18 years together. We don't even need to talk. The whole time I was recording, I didn't even know where he went. And when he came back, he went to the top of the building. He laid on the floor. He let a motorcycle drive by. He did 1,000 shots. And so now as an editor, I see all of my shots. And when I watched his stuff in the hotel, all I did was giggle because I saw everything else I'm going to add. So really, the art of editing is capturing what happened, capturing what you need to explain what happened, and then capture everything else. And when you get home, you take 1,000 Lego pieces and you make this amazing, cool looking dragon. And you have to understand, is the part nobody likes, a lot of pieces will never get seen and will never get used.
Yeah.
And the cutting room floor is better than the movie.
Right? I know.
Because the movie is just what I need to tell a story so she gets it. The cutting room floor is the pieces of the story that should have been there, but no one would get it. So, I mean, that's kind of my answer is each one's different. Each one flows differently. And it depends if it's a 15-minute doc or if it's an hour doc. Like Haiti's a short film. I can pretty much do it in my head and I do some simple notes and I've already watched my footage. I already know what I'm going to do. With the Messengers, I just inherited editing it right before I went to Haiti. I watched a few shots and I have zero idea where this is going to go. And for all of you that have been following this for months, yes, I'm admitting that a few months out, I have no idea. But I guarantee when you go hit play, it'll be there.
I am happy to provide you whatever filler you need.
Thank you.
I'll
so I
say
need you to go
whatever
back
you
to
need.
Guatemala and give me some beer.
I know, right?
I have a T-shirt that says editor because freaking miracle worker is not a job title. And people laugh every time I wear it and they giggle every time I wear it and they take pictures. Film students take pictures of me. And one day they said, so how do you know when you're a professional editor? And I said it, when you know the difference between using the blade tool and not. It's that simple. Because there's nothing wrong with not cutting. And that's the problem, that they don't get that. But I have to color correct something. I have to add audio. No, you don't. When Jesus sat around a rock with 12 people, he didn't edit crap. He just said the story. But then as people wrote it down, they edited it. And now you have 10,000 different religions and 15 versions of a book that was never edited.
Right.
And so to me, whether it's a movie, whether it's Latin, no matter what it is that it's just, you are a storyteller, story above graphics, story above sound effects, story above everything. Right. If you cannot tell your story cuts only with just the way it is, no amount of effects, no amount of magic is going to save that movie. But if underneath all that Hollywood glitz and glamour is an amazing story, then all the effects and all of this stuff is nothing but seasoning, spice, fire, and yummy. And that's how I cook. Right. That's how I think.
Exactly. When you were working for the mayor, were you doing like promotional video shooting for him?
Some of it we did, like, all the state of the city, come to Orlando, dedicating street signs, everything, marketing videos. But we were the ones that shot it and edited it. And there it was very different. It's very methodical. Okay, state of the city video. It needs to do this. It needs to evoke this emotion. Documentary is, I landed in Haiti and I'm moved by what I just saw. And now I need to find out, how do I move the world by capturing that just honestly and just the way it is.
Do you find that learning the kind of the precision that was required for doing the mayoral stuff helps you get less or more focused video and audio so that you don't have like this much to go through? You have this much to go through instead at
That's
the end?
That's a good question, because I struggle with sometimes not wanting structure, and then structure is the answer. And so I feel sometimes like a Jedi that goes against his own training. So the answer is yes. I believe it helps me sometimes when I'm getting cluttered in my head and when I'm shooting, and I'll suddenly remember, we need to just record nothing but sounds of the street. We need to record nothing but the kids playing with no video. I need to get sounds of that fish cooking and that horn of that car. And they're like, why? Because that's going to be all the L cuts. It's all the audio in the back that you think was there, but it's not. That's what I get from the precision training. And, and working for clients and corporate work all the time. What I'm loving about documentary, which, by the way, I'm not a documentary filmmaker. I'm a filmmaker that's right now is just doing documentary films.
Right.
What I'm loving about it is it takes me away from all the rules in a way that I can just go kind of crazy, man. And just, I can take in more than what I'm trying to put out,
Right.
you know?
When you were a kid, did your parents tell stories?
Not much. My storytelling love came from I could only see movies with my dad saw a movie in Chinese every Thursday. And my dad was very structured person. And his escape, his way of getting out of a hard work with six kids was movie night. And so even growing up when I was in Atlanta in 1996 Olympics time, I lived with my
Right.
dad, and every Thursday we went to Chinese in a movie. And so more of my stories came from watching millions of movies. And
Mm-hmm.
I used to listen a lot to radio shows. Even when they were already gone, I would listen to Orson Welles and all these radio shows where they
Mm-hmm.
told stories without any pictures.
Mm.
And lastly, listening, I love talking to people, especially elderly people, or even like talking to you. Like I love talking to people about their life and their stories. And
Mm-hmm.
the best of those people became me as a storyteller, I guess you could say.
Right.
I love hearing people tell me great stories, and then I just kind of learned what I loved about how they told it.
Right.
And so now, I think now I feel weird because you're asking me questions. I don't think about this stuff when I'm doing it. So now I watched you screw up my entire career because now I'll start shooting and be like, I need to think what I'm doing now. But
Oh God, I don't want to do that
and
to
when you
you.
think, you get shot.
Yeah,
What I'm doing
that's
right
true.
now is I'm letting 43-year-old Neil be 43-year-old Neil and not 43-year-old Neil trying to still be relevant to a 23-year-old filmmaking student
Right.
or earn the respect of a 63-year-old filmmaker. I'm just trying to tell the best stories I can with where I am in the world today.
That sounds like a really good thing because otherwise you're not authentic and people pick up on it's like everybody says with podcasting, don't try and be
Somebody else.
don't try and be something you're not because people are going to pick up on it and they're not going to like you. And that was one of the mistakes that I had made is I'd started getting critical comments from one subset of people and it made me overthink what I was
Yeah.
doing. And then you pull back and then your listenership goes down.
And we've all
And
been trained to buy somebody's course, somebody's book, somebody's ebook. And so what happens is you think you need someone else's info to be good. And it
mhm,
goes back to just cooking all the time makes you a good cook. Just like you've been on since
right.
2006. So you are way better now and you probably sucked back then. So
Well,
why?
the audio sure did.
Yeah.
The equipment we had access to sucked.
And all that matters, right? Like I couldn't be a good storyteller if I didn't have a Canon DSLR that lets me see in the dark. Or I would be sitting in a
Mm,
room where my camera can't adjust with what I see. So now that part never gets told because I just couldn't record it right.
right.
Go.
That is it. Oh my gosh.
Mm.
When there are all these people out there who will say the equipment doesn't matter, don't pay
Oh yeah,
attention
it
to the
does.
equipment. And having been one of those people who I can go back now and listen and I'm thinking all the work I did on research and getting the podcast out and it's unsalvageable audio some of it.
I think it doesn't matter to just get started, like right, like just get what you
Yeah.
have, and
Yeah, but that's like 6 years.
right. I think as you get
It
better at
hurts.
anything, you pick anything. I want to be a singer. Okay, the equipment doesn't matter on your first year when you grab any old microphone, any old mixer, and you record.
Yes.
But as you get passionate and you commit to any craft, because I don't want to be generic, you should be enhancing not just yourself, but the tools. Like no ninja learned to use that katana blade like that. He started off with throwing knives and a couple of little crappy knives. But as he battled and as he trained and as he learned, he had to get more and more precise gear to be a
Mhm.
precise killer. So people don't realize that ninjas aren't invisible because that's part of being a ninja. That's part of enhancing to the point that they don't need the weapon so they can be invisible. So being a
Mm.
storyteller, being a podcaster, it's all irrelevant. I am to the point that I use a Heil because a Heil is the tool for me to do this at my optimum.
Mhm.
But when I started, a Radio Shack was fine.
Yeah.
So like in Haiti this week, I noticed, oh my God, we're in the dark. There's no power there. So the
Oh.
GoPro saved my life because I could let me see in the dark. So guess what? If I hadn't had that camera, there would be about an hour and a half of footage that would just never be told because I just can't tell it. But because
Wow.
technology allows me to now shoot so small, I can wirelessly see it through my phone. So I was able to send the camera into a dark place and I'm safe outside. Audio lets me record stuff. I can edit all in a laptop and never see a computer or never see an edit bay.
Right.
And that technology, those tools allowed me to tell a better story. Not
That's
that it'll keep me
so
from.
interesting. What kind of the only GoPro that I think of is like something that you clamp onto a bicycle or onto your head or
There's
your
actually it
helmet.
is.
What
Instead of
did
clamping it, I just hold it.
so how were you able to send it into places that
Oh,
weren't
I would
safe when you
send it in with the guide and just tell them to hold it. Or whoever's in front of me, you're
Oh,
going in, and I'm going to be behind you with the phone. I can see everything you see, and I can guide you. Tilt down, tilt up, or you're able to strap it onto a car. I bought a suction cup and I stuck it on a vehicle, and then let the vehicle go wherever it's going to go, and the camera captures it all.
wow, so
Uh,
the bouncing down the road and getting your head hit into the
all there,
glass,
you'll
that's
see it.
all there?
hmm Uh,
Wow.
and then I stuck it on a stick and I held it above me and recorded backwards. So it lets me tell other angles that I literally physically could not achieve.
Right.
So you would say, so do the tools matter? Well, they matter when you're trying to be at your best. They don't matter when you're deciding to start something and you just need to get started. Don't let the tools scare you.
That's interesting because that's also part of that UCLA USC thing, right? It's that if you're given all those tools to start with and that's how you learn, then you're stuck. You can
Oh, yeah.
only work at the top of your game or the top of your technological game, and you've got nothing if you're stuck within
Yeah.
AT2100 or if all you've got is a headset mic and you don't know how to deal with where to put it and how to deal with the noise reduction that's there and how
But
to
yet a
edit the
real pro
audio.
can do pro work on a low end mic because they know how to adjust for bass, for distance. But that's the experience that they didn't have
Yeah.
when they started. And I'll end with this. I'm the biggest Batman fan that I ever met. And a lot of people have always asked me in every interview I've ever been on, why do you like Batman so much? Why are you such a Batman fan?
Oh
And
my God, he's so cute.
I said, if you read the comic or you ever watch the movie or the TV show, whatever part you want to watch, and Batman loses his parents, right? So he has some form of loss, meaning in my case, I, moved from Venezuela and lost my culture and I'm stuck in America. What am I going to be? And then he starts off punching a bag. Then he starts off learning how to climb a rope and he sucks at it and he gets beat up in the street and everybody's, he keeps testing his skill in the street and he keeps losing and losing. And every time he comes home, and in every movie you see him, he comes home from losing and he builds a better cape. He gets lit on fire, he builds a different mask. He goes and he fights the ninjas and they cut his arm. He built those things that, block knives.
Right.
My point of the story is that Batman reinvents his battle and his suit every time he leaves the Batcave. The car looks the
Mm,
way it does because every time it gets blown up, he adds more to it. So
mm,
I relate to Batman not because I'm a kid that can't let go of my childhood dream. It's that I admire what that character does to never, ever, ever go out to battle twice the same way.
right.
And so when you're out telling stories, when you're out doing your podcast, when you're cooking your first cake, you have to keep improving the way you make the cake, the ingredients, the way you cooked it, the time you use, the colors, the fondant. Everything has to constantly get better before you're a chef. And
Right.
so when people ask me a million times, how do you tell stories? Be Batman. Start sucking at telling a story. And the only difference before you make an amazing story is that you never gave up on telling stories. And that's it. If you just keep telling stories for 6 years since 2006, you're going to have a podcast with Neil Guilarte on it one day.
Yay.
That's it.
And
You
that's how you
got
know
to
you
this
made it.
day because you didn't quit your podcast.
It's true. It's very
So
true. That
be
is
Batman.
so cool. I'm going to. I think that's another hashtag.
Oh, yeah. I should start a podcast
I,
about and quit all this storytelling.
just be Batman. Have you watched Superhero Cafe?
No.
Oh, you have to watch it with your daughter.
What is it?
It's goofy. It's a cartoon that has Batman and
Really?
it's
Wow.
Batman and Superman. I mean, it has lots of things, and it's the whole
Oh, is that the
set
one
of
where they're
them
always making fun of each other and they're not, they're making fun of
at
each
the
other's power? Yeah,
cafe.
I think I have seen
Yes,
it.
and the answer to the question
Oh,
eventually
yeah,
is
yeah, yeah.
always going to be because I'm Batman.
I'm Batman. Yeah. Yeah. I thought about doing a podcast called I Am Batman.
There's room for that. Is it one of the things that that became clear to me listening to you talk is that some of what you do is technical stuff that you learned
hmm
either
hmm
on the job or from reading or from listening to people who'd been doing it before you. But it's also very clear listening to you that some of it is just the special sauce that is Neil.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of stuff that an apprentice could watch.
Right.
and learn from and take what works for them and
Hmm.
figure out their own way
Yeah.
on the side. But that's not the kind of thing that you're going to find in a
Yeah.
textbook. And
I've had some
that's
guys that
really
work with me
awesome.
in Guatemala he was saying, there's no way that your hand isn't shaking right now. And you must have a stabilizer on your lens. So then I looked at my lens and stabilizer's off and I kept recording and then kept making fun of me. There's no way. There's no way. My camera must have something yours doesn't. And then I turned back and I just said, the only difference between your camera and mine is mine's been holding this camera for 25 years. And so it's not that I'm better than you. I just learned how to stabilize my breathing. I learned how to care.
Oh,
And so I tell people like when they say, well, what's the difference between, uh, when I get people that are new and they're learning, I just say, you
right.
just got to care more. You don't got to learn more. You don't got to know more. You got to care more. So when you're shooting a wedding, it's not about whether you just shot her dancing with her dad. I go from the dress and I even sway left and right. And I call it the Cinderella shot and I shoot up her leg and up until I get to the dad crying and I time it just right. So dad is coming around the corner. And that's not technique. That's caring.
Yeah.
I know she's going to watch this later, and I want her to see that I cared about that moment as much as she did. Not that I got paid to just shoot the moment. And I think that's forever the difference. I don't do what I do, whether it's video, sound, being a dad, being on this podcast, doing all things post, because I just want another point or another credit.
Mm-hmm.
I do it because I just want to care more than the other guy. So that way people go, well, I listen to Niel because he's really a force in the industry. No, I listen to Niel because he gives a crap.
Yeah.
And he makes me want to give a crap. So,
Yeah.
we met at MapCon. I didn't even know you.
I
And the
know.
funny part about you was I had to go sleep because I hadn't slept in over a
In
week.
forever.
I snuck out during the games to take a nap. And when I woke up, I was late. I ran down, grabbed my messenger shirt. I walk in and you had the most calming voice. I felt like I was like, I just went into church, right? So you're sitting there talking and I don't even know who you are. And I sit down really quietly and I'm huffing and puffing. And I literally had vertigo when I went upstairs. I mean, I was seeing double. If I didn't sleep, I was going to die.
Yeah.
But what happens? I see you talking, and I keep telling the guy next to me, this lady has the most soothing voice on the planet. And never, once we left, we didn't talk anymore. I did this other interview, and I never thought I'd talk to you ever again. But the way that the world works is something, whether good, bad, little, or indifferent, stuck out that made you go, I just want to talk to this person.
Mm-hmm.
And then we are now creating a conversation that forever will be listened to, that will inspire people for a very long time. And the reason that happens is because you cared. If you didn't care, you just would have let Niel go. And next conference, I'll just grab somebody else. There's always somebody else.
Yeah, but there's no one like you.
Oh,
And
thanks.
that's
I feel
the
special
caring
for 30
thing.
seconds.
The caring thing. I don't think enough people talk about that. You're right, because
Yeah, we don't.
people were screwing up some stuff when we were working on curriculum, and I got upset about it and said something to my husband, and he said, "It's because no one will own anything anymore.
Of course not.
It's always somebody else's
Yep.
deal,
Next guy will
problem,
catch it.
thing."
Next guy will catch it. Next guy.
Exactly. And it's true that one of the things that made me a good teacher and a bad person at Disney was because I cared probably too much at
Well,
the
yeah,
time.
now you're slowing them down and you're slowing down the workflow. But you know
Absolutely.
what? What a great analogy. If you're sliding down a mountain and the only guy left that's holding on that can catch you says, well, the next guy will catch you. And I always tell myself, I need to be the guy that catches you. And we realize there's no next guy
Hmm.
because I was taught early on by a mentor and he just said, you are always the end answer. There is no next guy. And I'm like, but there is. I got a manager. I got a this. He goes, but think how much they love you if it never gets there.
Yeah.
Why don't you just be the boss in your head?
Yeah.
And so, with everything you guys do, if you're listening out there, I mean, caring will lead to you being better, which will lead to you being respected, which will lead to your message getting out further because people actually want to hear it because they know you care and they
Yeah.
know, like, and trust you. And that's why I think podcasting is amazing because you can get more of that than you ever will in a movie or a radio show that's been pre-cared for by some marketing guy.
Yes.
Instead of the host is the only person. You are the last person on the cliff when you're hosting your show and you're catching my story like it's the last one sliding down the hill
Hmm.
because you need to catch it so you can show it to everybody on the hill later. And if you treat every podcast like that, you guys will have amazing shows. And I think people's stories, it's your responsibility as a podcaster to tell their story like it's mine to tell the story of the poor in Haiti.
And I think you may have just figured out the through line for the messengers,
I know, right? Care more.
because it's all right,
Yeah.
because the people who you interviewed, I mean, it's why I said on the podcast that it just went out half an hour ago. I said this week that the nicest thing about going to MapCon, because I work at home and I don't get out and I don't get to see people very often, was being around so many people who were both passionate about their thing, but also were upbeat, enthusiastic, positive, not cynical. That's what it was.
Yeah.
It's none of us were cynics. None of us were there going, "Oh, well, this will never work." Everybody
Right.
was there wanting to learn, wanting to do more, do better, and they all knew different stuff. That first night mixer was the first time I talked to you because I think we mentioned Elsie Escobar.
Yeah.
And in fact, you were the first person I talked to when I got down there.
Yay.
And it was one of those moments where I went, "Okay, well, this is going to be good."
Oh, thanks. So you're
Well-
saying I could have screwed up your moment and you could have been like, "Oh, this is gonna suck."
Yeah, I could have just gone back to my
This
room
guy
and
only
wept.
talks about Batman. What a child.
No, we talked about Southern California for one thing. But
You know
that
what?
was-
And that, before we wrap up, I love Southern California. I was just there to shoot the messengers. I did not, and the home I grew up in was there. And the best part of going to shoot the messengers there was going to the house I grew up in and actually feeling full circle when I used to sit in that window and dream about one day, working in what
Making
I do.
movies.
Yeah, and being in front of the house and seeing the yard, I got really emotional because obviously I'm thinking of my mom when she was there and all of us little. And it just, my friend said, "Neil, now what you need to do is look at this house and never come back again." And I was like, "What the hell?" And he says, "You did full circle, stare at the window, give yourself a high five way back when you were a kid, and never think about this house again. Because what you're doing then is you're never letting go and you're never accepting that you did reach your success that you wanted. Now you need to reach a level you didn't plan for."
That's cool.
And that was the most powerful thing someone's ever told me because literally have gone to that house every time I go to LA and I realize I never want to see it again because that part is done.
Yeah.
Checked off win.
Yeah.
And that when I say these things, it's more for everybody, whatever stage you're in, is just, when you reach something you wanted, you need to not keep going back and did I still get it? No, you got it. Check it off. And now start over in that window and pick a whole new bigger one and go get that one.
Yeah. It's
And
the moving the goalpost thing.
That's what you do with
otherwise you get
podcasting.
into the loop. Yes.
You're using that to go further than just being a teacher or just being a professor. It's like another dream. So now your daughter's like, "Mom, you've been doing this forever." So who knows what your next level may be. Now let me throw this in the video. Let me host a radio show syndicated nationwide. It's you got to go bigger, but it's not because you want more money. It's because you got to reach more people. I just left a place where everybody has a cell phone, but they don't have food.
Yeah.
So if they have a cell phone, they can hear your podcast.
Yeah.
So hello, that means you could reach Haiti. You could reach Nicaragua. You could reach anywhere you want. So my thing is think global, don't think local. And then just get out there and just do it. And I wish you the best. And we better stay in touch because I'm a person, I just said to the mayor of Haiti, I make friends and I never get rid of them. So on my way back and from Haiti, I stopped and I looked up Danny Pena, Gamertag Radio, and I found him and I took him out to eat with him and his wife. And he said, "Why?" And I said, "Just because you got to have friends all over the world, not because they can help you. It's just that your network's amazing.
It's good to
and you have a fuller life. So now, next time I'm up in your neck of the woods or you're in Tampa, you guys say hi."
Oh yeah. But and I was listening to your interview with the Muslim podcaster.
Oh yeah, I coached her.
Wow.
Yeah, I helped her get started when nobody would touch that show because of the topic, and she's
so glad you
amazing,
did.
and she's a beginner, and she's working hard at that show. But her message was more important than her technique.
Yeah.
And I always knew that doing this, like we talked about, doing it long enough, she'll become a chef. I just need to get her to want to be in that kitchen.
I felt that.
My
Definitely.
thing with Khadijah was just tell that story that's very, very, everybody's going to curse at you right now. But when you tell it long enough, they're going to start listening to you.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's kind of, hopefully, I think she's amazing. But thanks for mentioning that because I'm a very proud, when I think of her, I'm a very proud coach.
Right. You're the proud papa. Where does she live? I forget.
Here in Tampa.
She is in Tampa.
Mm-hmm.
Yay.
Yeah, if you come to the podcast, I'll introduce you. And also Nick Snap of the Make It Snappy Productivity Show. He's from here and he exploded. I'm always proud. I was proud to see them doing their thing because it has nothing to do with us or what we taught them. It has to do with that they listened and then now they're in the kitchen becoming a chef. And that's what I always think about. They're cooking, man. And as long as you're cooking, you're going to get better. It's when you stop. If you quit, it's a wrap. You'll never become what you're going to be.
No, it's true. It's moving forward.
So don't pod fade.
No, oh God, no. I'm after 10 years. It's one of those.
You're
things
not
like,
going
now
to.
I'm just stubborn.
I will push it like madman. I I think you have a really interesting angle on things, and I think I would love to push it out so more people can hear your angle and then find your show.
That would be great because I tell you, it's the hard sell because there's nothing sexy about classic fiction.
That's another T-shirt. That's
No,
another sexy.
there's nothing sexy about classic hashtag. No, and so we've tried to have lots of jokes about it, like the Count of Monte Cristo that we're doing right now. He is like the original James Bond. Oh my God, this guy is the ultimate international man of mystery, and there are parts that are laugh out loud funny, and you would never know. You would never
Right.
know because everybody treats it like it's porcelain. It's like, no,
Right.
these are stories and they're fun and they were meant to be fun. And Alexandre Dumas does all this stuff like he's the master of self-promotion. It's 1838 and
Mhm.
he sells books that he translated into French. He sells those books in his chapters.
And people
Well,
don't realize that most of the stories that we love, James Bond, Batman, all that stuff is derivative of those things.
Oh, absolutely.
They borrow from those things very heavily. They just don't say it.
That's one of the most fun things that happens every single time on the podcast is once we start a book,
Yeah.
all of a sudden we keep having these zeitgeist posts because like once upon a time, who's a character coming up next year? Count of Monte Cristo.
Right. Exactly.
Who ended this season? Jekyll and Hyde. When we were doing the book Flatland, which is this weird math Victorian satire about society, but it's really, really cool. All of a sudden, Big Bang Theory had Flatland jokes. It's like,
Yeah.
God, we're tapping into something.
And more people need to read that because God, we're getting so stupid. I think I was just telling this to Willie on the plane. I'm like, I haven't been inspired, or I haven't left a conversation thinking or pondering ever in the past decade.
Yeah.
I mean, people just talk about Pokemon and I get it. You have to have fun in life, but the days of ponder, like we'll never have another renaissance at the rate we're going, because if you don't ever ponder or question things or like you said, study something and see how it relates to today's world, because it is cyclical.
Mhm.
Like, I just feel like we're getting dumber and dumber. And my dad jokes about it, the world is so dumb that now the best conversation is to not have one. But
I'm going to have
even
to send
talking
you
to
a
just a
link.
little bit, like we're talking about our things, but you keep dropping these really high end things, and I'm over here taking notes. Like, I need to read that. I need to go look at that. I need to listen to her show. And I think more people need to discover that. And that's one thing with podcasting is you could do that. You could say,
Yeah.
I want to be smarter. Let me listen to Heather's show. So, I mean, I love that you guys are still doing that, because I'm so fearful that my daughter's going to grow up in a world where all we want to talk about is SpongeBob or make
know.
funny memes on Facebook. And although that's enjoyable and
Sure.
we need a little bit of that,
Yeah.
what we're lacking is pondering, thinking, questioning, story, like you said, furthering the art of storytelling. It is an art.
Yeah. Oh, it is.
And I know, look at last thing, Chris Kremitzos, you just brought him up. He has Story Jam Theater. That's his podcast. If you want to hear great stories, I did one about In Sync. It's on Story Jam Theater.
I'm writing it.
He cannot even put out podcasts because he can't find 10 good storytellers at a time. So he wants to release like 10 at a time. He records them in a mic in an open room.
Right.
It's like an open mic night. You tell your story, everybody claps. And then out of 20 stories, he can only post 2 because people today don't even know how to tell a story.
Oh my God.
So it's like, and it's their life. They lived it and they can't even tell it. They don't know that the punchline goes at the end. They will open a story with, so let me tell you how I, first fell down and got my first. No,
Oh,
you
God.
do that for the end, right?
Oh my
So,
God.
Keep doing what you're doing, and thanks for having me on. It's been fun.
It's been a lot of
I'm
fun.
sorry I
Thank you.
rambled. I am a little bit jet lagged, and I want to
No.
hear your show aside from my episode, and I'm glad we met, and I hope I see you at a lot of different conferences, and now we're podcast buddies in the
Yes.
podcast
Absolutely.
space.
That's right. In our own little universe of happy, non-cynical people who like to tell stories. It's a
Now
good
you'll get
place to
shouted
be.
out on our promotions. Just randomly get shout outs from the people that made the messengers. Yo, what up?
Thank you so much
Thanks
for
for
doing
letting
this
me
with
have
me.
opportunity to be on. Thank you.
You bet. I'm so excited.
Yay.
You take care and say hi to Tally and tell her thank you for letting me borrow you for an hour
I
and a
will.
half.
As soon as
She's
we're
such a
done,
cutie.
she's gonna say, "Daddy, Elsa." It's been a pleasure. Stay in touch with me for
will.
any reason, not just for work.
Absolutely. Let me know if you're up near New York and I will come find you.
I will. God bless.
You too. Take
Good
care.
night.
Good night.